everybody, I'm David with Bolivar Live. We're here with Dan Priest from Priest Insurance for another show, Insurance Talk with Priest Insurance, where each week we talk about insurance. It could be home insurance, car insurance, maybe golf cart insurance, or what's happening in the market. You can always see it on our social media pages, but now you can also see it on Bolivar Live TV on Roku and Amazon Fire. In fact, we're in the process of getting that put on our website so that if you don't have Roku or Amazon Fire, you're going to be able to watch TV from Bolivar. So what are we talking about? You sent me a presentation and said you're going to drill me today.
Oh,
and
I don't know about that.
Let's talk about, I guess it's car insurance.
Yep. So, a couple of weeks ago, we talked a little bit about what was driving rates and what's happened with rates, and we did a conversation about home and insurance to value and why you're insuring your home. And I thought today we'd talk a little bit about auto coverage. What you're buying when you buy auto insurance, and specifically today we're going to hone in on one aspect of the coverage.
And the state requires you, because we've talked about this with golf carts, the state requires you to have insurance and a minimum.
Right. So we're going to kind of talk a little bit about that today. So what the state requires is liability coverage, the coverage that would protect you if you cause an accident with someone else or damage their property, meaning their car or their culverts or whatever it is in their yard.
Ran off the road over one of their trees.
Something of that nature, that is correct. So when you get into rating, and one of the things with auto insurance is you are purchasing a pot of money for protection. So before we get to that, we'll talk about parts of the auto policy. In your auto policy, you have liability coverage, which is required by the state, property damage coverage, which is required by the state, and that is the end of the day of what is required. Okay,
everything just two things: the liability coverage and the property coverage.
Everything else is optional. So uninsured motorist liability, while it's important, it is optional. Uninsured motorist property damage, medical or PIP, comprehensive coverage, which is hitting an animal, or hail damage and collision coverage if you're driving down the road and you hit another person.
And this is different if you have a loan on a vehicle. If your vehicle's paid off, or you pay cash for it, which is hard. It's like a house nowadays.
It is.
You can have the minimum that the state requires. But if you have a loan on a vehicle, either from a credit union or a bank or finance company, they require you to have more insurance, don't they?
Yes, but that's a different thing. The state requires you to have that, and then there can be other requirements by a lender for comprehensive and collision coverage for your car.
Okay.
And then there's roadside assistance, which it can be many things, and rental car coverage, and there's various endorsements such as auto death indemnity, original equipment manufacturing stuff. There's a lot of that, but today we're going to specifically talk about auto liability coverage. Okay. So liability coverage protects you in the event that you cause an accident, and it protects you to the extent of the damages you cause plus any legal defense that you might incur along the way. So we're going to talk about some practical examples of how that works. So moving into this thing we got on the board. So David, we're going to use you as the guinea pig. This is going to be
great.
It's going to be fun. So imagine just for a moment, we all daydream while we drive, right? Everybody does.
Or talk on the phone. Everyone talks on the phone when they're driving.
They do something. So in a scenario, if you know Bolivar, David, let's assume you're coming back in from...
Not in the Bolivar Live truck. This is my personal vehicle.
This is your personal vehicle.
Okay, yeah.
You're coming back down from Rollover or Highland, and you're just moving along, and you've thought about what your day's entailing or what you'd have to do later. And, for me, one of the hardest stop lights in this area is the big store. I don't know why, but I
think it's because everyone looks at the big store to see how many people are there, what's going on.
Yeah, it could be, but I miss that light all the time, and I look up and I have to slam on my brakes. So just imagine you're coming down the road and you just get into a daydream for some second, and that light is actually red, but you don't even recognize it, and you're just going down the road. And mom, who's been working and picked up her kid, is pulling out of the store, getting ready to go home, and you T-bone them, right? You hit the driver's side of the car.
You would have to use me and a mom with a kid.
Well, Sorry, Dave. And then that car actually pushes into the other lane and causes damage to another vehicle, okay?
Okay.
So there is damage to the car. So we have to that you hit, and there's some liability coverage that you have in your policy, but we're not really going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about the damage. So going back to that scenario, you know, you hit the driver's side of the car, and the kid in the back seat, you know, is kind of hit a little bit and gets banged up on the windshield, has to go to the hospital just to get checked out, and then is released. But in all that, that person has $30,000 in damages from the ambulance fee, from x-rays, from everything else, okay?
Are we talking about the vehicle too, or
no, we're just talking about
person?
the person. The vehicle
Okay.
coverage is a different thing.
Okay.
So the state requires you to have this number right here, which is $30,000 per person and $60,000 total for every accident that you call. That's the pot of money that you buy, okay? And there's various limits. There's 50,000, 100, 100, 300, 250, 500, and there are more, okay? But the person one, the kid, has 30,000 in damage. Mom, on the other hand, you know, she also hits her head in the steering wheel. She's got to get some sutures, maybe broke her collarbone or her shoulder in such a way that there's some surgery with pins and a little bit of rehab. She can't go to work for 2 weeks, so you're liable for lost wages. She has up to 75,000 in damage. And then the person that she was pushed into also has $45,000 in medical bills. So we're going to take this scenario, David, that you caused, and we're going to walk through how it's going to be paid. And we're going to do so in each of these situations. So as we go on, let's assume you have the minimum limits of $30,000 and $60,000. The kid in the back seat had $30,000 in damages. How much do you think that person got paid?
$30,000.
$30,000.
What if they had more than $30,000?
Well, you're getting ahead of the program.
Okay.
So person number two, $75,000 in damage. How much do you think that person would have gotten paid?
$75,000.
Well, what's the per person limit?
$30,000. So they got paid $30,000.
Right. And there's still a discrepancy. The other $45,000 is still out there. So how about person number three, $45,000 in damages? How much did they get paid?
$30,000.
What's the total limit on the policy?
$60,000.
How much did person one get?
$30,000.
Person two?
$30,000.
Right. So that means there's nothing left for the person with
Right.
$45,000 in damage. So that's $90,000 in potential liability remaining. And who is on the hook for that?
I don't know. Hopefully
You.
not me.
It is you.
Oh, it's me.
Yeah, and the legal defense that would cause to step in, okay? So now you've kind of got the picture here. So let's go through step two. This person has $50,000. You picked a bigger pot of money, okay? Which cost a little bit more money, but surprisingly very little. So this, now you have $50,000 per person and $100,000 per accident. So person one, going back through this, $30,000 in damages, how much would they get paid?
$30,000.
Right. Person number two, $75,000 in damages, how much would they get paid?
75 or 30,000.
$50,000.
Or 50,000.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. And then person number three, $45,000 in damages, how much do you think they would get paid?
50,000. No.
That's,
yeah,
that's a really good guess, okay? So the way it actually works is $30,000 per person, because that $30,000 is under the $50,000 limit. $75,000 in damages, you're limited to $50,000, so that's all they get. But that's $25,000 left. The third person has $45,000 in damages. That's under the $50,000 per person limit. But when you take the $50,000 that's already been paid and the $30,000, that only leaves $20,000 left for the $100,000.
Okay.
Okay, so that you still have a $50,000 remaining liability that you're facing potentially from the accident that you're on the hook for through garnished wages or something. So now we're going to move, I think you're kind of getting this.
I'm getting it.
So now we're down to the $100,000 and $300,000 limit. Person has $30,000 in damages.
Yeah, we got plenty.
Got plenty. $30,000. The person with $75,000.
We got plenty.
It's under the 100, right?
Under the
So the
100.
75. The person in the 45, what's that?
We had enough left over that they're
did.
getting paid.
Because everybody's under the $100,000
Right.
limit, and when you add 75 and 30 and 45, that's less than the $300,000 limit, so you're fully covered there.
Right.
That's what your insurance does. And then 250, 500 works the same way. But
Right.
either one of these limits in this situation,
What do most people, if they're doing that, what do most people carry? Or is there really an average that an insurance company may suggest or people feel comfortable doing? Do a lot of people go for the minimum, or do they try and get that 100 or 250,000?
I don't have a hard number for that.
Okay.
But we're all faced with rising costs,
Right.
So our nature tells us to get the cheapest we can get. So most of the people, I would assume 40 to 50% of the people that we run across have this minimum liability limit of $30,000 per person, $60,000 per accident. And actually the third number, the property damage, remember you actually caused damage to two cars. Most people have $25,000 in coverage for the damage. So you've got two cars damaged. Do you think you might have enough coverage for that?
I doubt it.
I doubt it. Don't hit the two wrong cars.
Yeah.
Because that could be a rough thing.
Right.
So most people have that, but the truth is, talk to your agent, call us, because the difference between this coverage and this coverage is probably a trip to Starbucks a month.
Really?
Yeah, it's very, very light. It doesn't cost a lot of money to get what you need to get, but we're so prone, we think a $10 trip to Starbucks, right? That's $120 a year, and many people, that turns them off. Don't let that turn you off.
Now I'm different now because I've got a commercial truck, but I've always been different on my personal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever gone under 250. Just because my dad, when I was growing up, he said, for the little bit it costs more, have peace of mind. You're too young to have to pay someone's hospital bills if something happened. And so that's one thing. He never chinched on insurance coverage, and I've always sort of done the same thing, just this is what I want, and when I came to you, I said, let me know what you think, and you gave me your opinion. And so that's why I was wondering how many people went with the minimum.
So one of the things that people do when they're going like online stuff or whatever it is, we look and generate the minimum. We think about, I know that most of our tendencies, mine is thinking about my truck, right? That is that's what people think about they're covering in their auto insurance, right?
They're not thinking about the Lamborghini or something.
That they may have never had an accident before, but from personal experience, you could be driving down the road in a hydroplane and you thought you had it.
Yeah.
Accidents happen, that's why they're called that. So one of the things that we do is you can, in your life, recover from your truck being damaged. That's
right.
$50,000 loss that would be terrible, but you can recover from that. You can't recover from the liability issue that could cause from an accident that you have.
Right.
So oftentimes we'll work with people that are being budget conscious. There are ways to do that. Like, I would rather you have this limit and ask you to trade your $500 deductible for a $1,000 deductible, because that $500 is going to mean nothing if we can't protect you here.
Right.
So
it's just like homes. Deductibles can play a difference in it.
Use a deductible or other coverages. Don't get duplication to get to the coverage you need, which for me, while every other part of the auto policy is important and carries and has a part, this is what you're buying. And get that pot of money right that'll keep you out of
court,
out of just the mind game of doing the right thing in case somebody gets hurt.
Right. And, I was in the hospital in March. Man, $30,000 isn't much.
No.
I mean, that's, and so having the added coverage with hospital costs and stuff, because if people don't have insurance, even if they do, if it's an accident, it's just, like I said, my dad's always tried to go with the higher, and that's how I was brought up, and so that's what I've tried to do. But, when I was personal, I didn't want $1 million coverage. But nowadays, you know, you hit a BMW or something, man, it don't take much.
Well, that's just the property damage
Right.
section. That's not the liabilities. There's different components you got to have.
Right.
And it costs so little to get where you need to go, or there's other ways that you can adjust in your policy to get the right coverage that you need in the event something happens. There's no such thing. Everyone talks about full coverage. When we were talking about all those different parts of the policy, there's truly no
Sure.
such thing as
full,
full coverage.
right.
It doesn't cover everything.
And just let it be known, I do have a clean driving record. He's not going off past experience using me as a guinea pig. So, well, if people want to talk more about insurance and the different levels and minimums and maximums, how can they get hold of you and the girls?
Just call us 409-755-7600 or priestinsuranceenagency.com, and we'd love to talk to you and help you get where you need to be.
And, you know, each week we do a different show, and we really haven't covered a lot of the shows we're getting into now because of the studio. We're being able to get in more depth. When we were on the beach, we talked general a lot of times, but being able to see this, now I understand, and I hope everyone does, on how important it is to make sure you have the right coverage.
And you know, maybe another time we'll go through different parts of the policy, home and auto. And so what happens if someone hits you and they have this 30-60 limits? Is there a way to protect you? And there is. And so we'll go back through that maybe on our next visit.
Cool. Well, we're going to head on out. Dan, thanks for joining us this morning. Remember, you can see Bolivar Live and our insurance show anytime on any of our social media channels, and now on Bolivar Live TV on Roku and Amazon Fire. Make sure it's a free download. You can see it there. It also has video on demand, so you can go back and see past shows also if there's something you want to brush up on or hear again. So we're going to head on out. Until next time, I'm David with Bolivar Live. Y'all have a great day, great week. Come see us. God bless, and bye-bye. Priest Insurance Agency has been located in the heart of Lumberton, Texas since 2001, providing a consultative approach and educating customers on how their insurance works for them throughout the coastal region of Texas. Priest Insurance specializes in the coastal region of Texas, covering home, auto, business, and recreational insurance. With ties to the coastal communities, Dan Priest has had the sand between his toes since 1972, with a home on Bolivar Peninsula in Galveston County. He survived a storm named Ike, but lost his home. With insurance coverage, his family was able to rebuild following the 2008 storm and continues to make memories beachfront. Priest Insurance specializes in the coastal communities, family dwellings, investment property, and business insurance. They've been there. Whether you're looking for or have a family retreat along the Texas coast, investment property, or a business, Priest Insurance would be honored to work with you and your family to make sure you're covered anytime trouble arises. For more information on Priest Insurance and their contact information, please visit their website at www.priestinsuranceenagency.com, or their office is open for phone calls with questions and consultation Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. by calling 409-755-7600. Priest Insurance Agency, working and educating customers, making sure they understand and have the coverage they deserve.